You curious cats. Today I'm going to speak a little bit on Bitcoin. It's a pretty critical time for Bitcoin, and I'll just give you a quick overview of why that is and why it's a good time to start paying attention. So a lot of people kind of point the finger at capitalism, and I was guilty of that not too long ago as well. You know, it's easy to start to think that capitalism is the problem because a lot of people think we have capitalism right now and the system is broken. So it's easy to point the finger at capitalism and say, oh, capitalism is the problem. However, capitalism isn't the problem. We don't have free market capitalism. We have something that I've started calling kleptocratic socialism or crony capitalism, because it isn't capitalism. In true capitalism, when a company makes bad choices and they go bankrupt, we let them fail, and that's how the true free market decides what businesses survive and which ones don't. But when the government has control and they get to decide, they print money out of thin air and they decide which industries to subsidize or bail out, then it's really socialism in a sense. And it's not socialism in the sense of them helping out the small guys. It's socialism in the sense of they're helping out whatever industry they decide, and they steal our money, which is kleptocracy. So that's kind of what we have right now. We don't have true free market capitalism. So it's not really fair to point the finger at capitalism and say capitalism is the problem, because capitalism's actually a really beautiful system. The problem with what the system we have is that the money is broken. It's the money supply that is rotting from the inside. We don't have hard money. And you need a hard money in a system, because if you can just come counterfeit the currency and create more of it out of thin air instead of contributing something for it, it starts to devalue the currency. And when everyone's working and giving all their time, their labor, their energy, their creativity for money, and other people can just come and create it out of thin air, the whole system starts rotting from the inside out. So when you have a hard money, which is something that is hard to create, that you can't just come and create out of thin air, then it's really hard to create more of that currency. So the only way to get it is by giving something of value that somebody else wants for it, like working hard for it or coming up with an innovative idea that somebody's willing to pay for. And when you have hard money that your society uses, it actually creates the most amount of wealth for the most amount of people. If you look back in society, when we were back on a true gold standard, we actually had the most widespread wealth amongst society. Like people in general were doing the best they ever did. But now, because the money's rotting, it's a very select few that are doing really well, and the masses aren't doing so well, and there's more and more people getting knocked into poverty. So it's really critical when you have a capitalist system that we have a solid, hard money at the basis of that. That's the core of the entire system. And when that money is corrupt, toxic, and rotting, we can't flourish as a society. And there's many reasons for that I'll be discussing in further videos, but that's kind of the gist of it. And right now, with the governments just being able to create money out of thin air and bail out any industry they like, the currency's rotting, and they're promoting these bad businesses. Like, banks should have failed in 2008, but they didn't. They propped them up. They bailed them out, and these companies should have been bankrupt, but the government pulled them out and said, no, we need you to keep going, blah, blah, blah. So then the corruption continues. True capitalism lets these businesses fail. If they made bad business decisions and they go bankrupt, they fail, they're done. And that's how the cream rises to the top. But the government's getting their little greedy hands involved, and they're trying to play God and mess with nature, and it screws up the whole system. So we need to return to hard money. We need to reinstate a currency. We all need to start using currencies that maintain their values, so that when we're busy working for them and giving all our time, labor, and efforts and innovation for these currencies, that they actually hold value and hold the wealth that we're creating as a society. So some of the things that are hard money are gold, and the reason gold's a hard money is because it's really hard to get more of. You can't just hit print or add more digits to the money supply like these governments are doing. You actually have to go mine the physical gold. And even at the most high production we've ever seen, and when gold mines all ramp up their production, the most inflation we've ever seen in gold as a currency in a single year is like 2.7%. So you know that the inflation of that money supply can't just come and double like a government currency can. And when the money supply doubles, as you all know, or as you're starting to learn, the purchasing power of that currency gets cut in half. So when a currency can only increase by 2.7%, that is by definition a hard money. It's really hard to create more of. So it inherently will hold way more value than something that's really easy to create or counterfeit. And the other thing that came on the scene during the 2008 financial crash was Bitcoin. And I suggest to all of you that you start to learn about Bitcoin. Don't go and dump all of your money in it. It still is a speculative play. It has a lot of risk associated with it. It can still go to zero. It's been around for 11 years. I don't think it's likely, but it can. So never invest too much money. Never invest more than you're willing to lose. But the reason I like Bitcoin is because it has so much potential as a money. It has so many properties that we're looking for as a hard money, as a free market. A lot of these elites actually control the gold and silver market as well. Bitcoin is the closest thing we have to a true free market in the world. And you can buy any amount of Bitcoin. Unlike gold and silver, right now there's minimums on gold and silver purchases. $12,000 minimum purchase of gold in Canada. Most people can't afford that. And $2,500 minimum purchase in silver. So for your average person, gold and silver has even become inaccessible. They can't escape these government currencies that are corrupting our entire system, that are bankrupting all of us. And that leaves nowhere to go but Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is a very hard money because it has what's called a set inflation schedule, and it's done through the computer algorithms and the way that Bitcoin is designed. And without getting too technical here, there's what's called the halving. So every 4 years, or right around the 4-year mark, Bitcoin's inflation, or in other terms, the amount of new Bitcoin that comes on the market, gets cut in half. So the last 4 years, Bitcoin's inflation has been at 4%. That means every year, 4% more of the total supply gets put on the market. So that means there's not much more Bitcoin coming on the market. We're already at a less inflation than most government currencies, or we are in real terms. And what's happening next month is called the Bitcoin halving. So what happens in the halving? The inflation of Bitcoin gets cut in half again. So for the next 4 years, Bitcoin's inflation is getting cut down to 1.9%. So now we have less inflation than even gold. So basically, Bitcoin is going to be the hardest money ever created. And it's very hard to create more of. And every 4 years, it gets cut in half. So in 2024, Bitcoin's inflation is going to be cut down to about 0.9%. And it gets increasingly harder to create more of until, I can't remember, I think it's 2050. There is no more Bitcoin to be created, and the only way to get Bitcoin will be to buy off somebody else who already has it. So this creates tremendous value in Bitcoin because it's extremely scarce. And you want a money that is scarce because when it's easy to create, it's easy to devalue. So when you start to wrap your mind around how money works and how these governments are destroying our currency and essentially enslaving us as people, you start to understand the importance of having a hard money and having a currency that maintains value. And as you work hard and you try and get ahead, and you're busy saving these government currencies and you notice that you're actually not getting ahead, it gets really frustrating. So you start to see the importance of a hard money and why we need to fix this money problem. And then you'll start to see the value of Bitcoin and why a lot of us are talking about Bitcoin and its importance. So those are just some of the reasons I think you should start paying attention to Bitcoin. Historically, every time the halving happens, it's a supply and demand thing. So as the supply gets cut in half and the demand starts to increase, what happens to price? It goes up. And historically, Bitcoin price surges right around the 6-month mark of the halving. So with the halving approaching next month, the odds are looking back historically that Bitcoin price is going to rise, and it's going to rise quite a bit. So now might be a good time to get your first little bit of Bitcoin. As I said, this isn't financial advice. I don't recommend you go all in on anything, but maybe you want to start researching it, and you want to buy your first little bit of Bitcoin and start to learn how to buy it, how to store it, how to shift it around, learn all your security stuff, and just learn a little bit about it, get a little bit, because next year it could be over $100,000 per Bitcoin, and you're going to wish you bought at these prices. Trust me, I mean, that's what got me into Bitcoin. Is I had an opportunity to buy at $7 by listening to Max Kaiser's channel, and I didn't. I hummed and I hawed and I didn't, and I watched it go up and up and up until I was buying at much higher prices. So that's why I'm trying to share with you guys this information, so that hopefully you can make your own decision and get a piece of the pie here. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity where we've had a new currency introduced that isn't under the control of these banking cartels and the centralized elite that hold all the power. So this is a decentralized currency that gives us all an opportunity to own a piece of the pie and to create something new that isn't centrally controlled. So it's a very exciting thing. So even though there's high risk involved, there's also high reward. And historically what's happened is the people that have been willing to take this risk and purchase and hold Bitcoin have been handsomely rewarded as the price continually goes up, as the supply continually decreases. So as this continues, more and more people are going to wake up to the value of Bitcoin, I believe, and I believe the price will just keep rising. And by getting in now and getting a little piece of the pie, you have an opportunity to make a play on that and to take advantage of that, or not necessarily take advantage, but at least to start saving your wealth in something that's so extremely scarce and is a perfect hard money. So I'll be discussing in future videos more reasons why I like Bitcoin, more reasons why I think everyone should own a little bit of Bitcoin. As I said, diversity is key. Don't put all your money in any one thing, but to own a little bit of different currencies or different monies is a great thing. So with that being said, I'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much for your time. As always, please like and share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and have a wonderful day.